Hi, I'm John McAuliffe, Chief Marketing Officer of VFM Leonardo, and welcome to VTV. VTV has been produced for hotel e-commerce, marketing, and sales professionals to provide insights, knowledge, and learning from industry experts on how to extract more value from a hotel's presence on the internet. Each week, I will interview an industry expert on a single topic. We have discovered many of these topics from industry people like yourself and encourage you to let us know if there are additional topics you would like us to cover on future episodes of VTV. You can email us at vtv@vfmleonardo.com and make your suggestion anytime. Welcome to today's episode. Our topic today is, what is the successful hotelier focused on? With me today is Jeff Higley. Jeff is the editorial director at hotelnewsnow.com, which he recently launched for Smith Travel Research. He is immersed in the latest news and trends in the worldwide hotel industry and speaks with executives at hotel management companies to get their first-hand perspectives on what's happening in the industry. Jeff, thank you for joining us on VTV, and welcome.
John, it's certainly my pleasure to be part of this, and thanks to you and to VFM Leonardo for inviting me.
You're welcome. Our first topic, or our topic for today, is a pretty big topic. What is the successful hotelier focused on? That's a pretty large question. So let's try to get into what I'm talking about with that. Everyone knows that the industry currently is experiencing some challenges. Occupancy rates are down, ADRs are under pressure, and the way people shop for travel online has dramatically changed over the past 10 years. What are the top 5 things on the minds of hoteliers these days? And what are the successful hoteliers focused on?
Well, John, it's kind of good news and bad news with this kind of environment. Certainly the bad news is obviously it's a challenge for hotels revenue-wise and occupancy-wise. But on the operational side, when you're talking about what you're worried about, you can really pinpoint things to what you're worried about because it's such a finite thing. When you ask for the top 5, I think there's one major thing that everyone's worried about, and that is, how am I going to get to tomorrow? How am I going to make the bills? How am I going to pay the bills tomorrow? How am I going to make sure that the employees that I do have left are going to have jobs tomorrow? And how am I going to have a job tomorrow? So the all-encompassing umbrella issue is just that. Where are we going, and how am I going to get there in an environment that's very tough and very difficult for me to get there? Now, there are some underlying factors of which I touched on, including that whole HR issue in which every day hotel owners, operators are coming in and going, gosh, I hope I don't have to lay off anyone else today. There's been a large number of layoffs in the hotel industry, just like every other industry around the world, really. And the biggest thing that hotel operators have to keep in mind is you've got to have the personnel to make sure that the guest experience is what the guest is supposed to experience, because that's what they're buying, whether it's a good time or bad time. So one of the key elements that they're worried about is HR issues, including layoffs. Another one is, how do I drive revenue? That's the age-old question in the hotel industry, which is so competitive. And it's a street corner business, and when a new hotel opens up across the street or on the other side of the corner, the issue isn't any different than what it is now, and that's, how do I attract guests? How do I make money? How do I drive revenue? And how do I make a profit for my owner? So that certainly is keeping hotel operators awake at night, considering the fact that occupancy has had such a dramatic drop in the past year, and that there's only a finite number of travelers that you have to draw from. But the most top of mind thing for hotel operators today is strictly the business environment at hand. It's not only how am I going to make money, but how am I going to spend the money that I do have wisely, and how do I get through this environment so that we live to see the day when the rebound comes. And whether that's 3, 6, 9, 12 months from now, these hotel owners and managers are focused on making sure that they have the best situation they can for when that time comes.
Jeff, you talked about keeping a focus on costs and not letting those actually get in the way of delivering guest experience as well. And what I take from that is that hoteliers must really be focused on where they're spending their money, and are they spending their money prudently and in the right places. So how does a hotelier ensure that they are spending their money wisely? And how do they know if the activities that they're spending their money on are truly returning investment dollars to them?
Well, that's probably the million-dollar question in the hotel industry. Even companies and managers who think they're doing the right thing, may not be doing the right thing in the eyes of their owners. A classic example is what happened out at the Four Seasons of area in California, in which the owner just told Four Seasons, "We don't like the job you're doing anymore. You need to leave. We're going to get a different management company in place." So certainly that fight is still ongoing, whether Four Seasons continues to manage that or not. But I think the fundamental there is key, is you've got to be in tune with your owner. You've got to know what you're doing and how it plays into their plans, because certainly they're the ones that call the shots. So by certainly having the right tools in place to ensure that that you're spending money. If you need an asset manager, if you need an extra revenue manager to ensure that the money's going into the right spot. How do you figure if your ROI is the appropriate level? Well, I guess the bottom line to that is if you're making money in this environment, or to put it another way, I guess, is if you're not losing as much as your neighbor, because in many ways you've got to keep up with the Joneses. So therefore, you're spending your money right if you're still offering the same services that you were offering before this recession, but obviously with less people or with fewer people. So knowing that your guests are coming back, the guests that are out there, getting those repeat guests to book again in a short window, having additional revenue generated from your ancillary products, such as your restaurant or your spa or the other amenities that your hotel offers, is a key element to this. And you can track that, and hotel operators do track that to know whether they're performing at the level that they need to be. But fundamentally, it still goes back to making sure that your owner is happy. And even the hotel owners, operators, have to wear two hats every day and go, okay, is the operator in me making sure that the owner in me is happy and pleased with the job that I'm doing to make sure that I'm maximizing revenue. But it does come down to, in a situation like this, that there are tools out there, there are companies out there that can help you. And while I'm not going to recommend any, I sincerely suggest that every hotel owner should look at the third-party asset managers and third-party revenue managers and consultants out there to make sure that you're maximizing your dollar now for expenses, because that money is well spent as we go into this recession. And again, if it lasts 6 months or 12 months, the bottom line is you need to be buttoned up now for when the upturn comes. You need to be prepared. So make sure you're documenting, make sure you get the proper help, and make sure you're certainly attracting the guests that you've spent so much money on attracting in the past, and that you will continue to attract in the future. Make sure they're taken care of. That's really, a happy guest will tell you that you're doing the right job as far as maximizing your revenue.
Jeff, there's a lot of talk out there about price and the pressure on reducing pricing for hotel accommodation. What are you seeing that successful hoteliers are doing, and what counsel do you have for anyone that is looking at adjusting their pricing?
Well, first and foremost, Smith Travel Research has always had the stance that hotels should hold their rate for as long as they can before discounting. Following the 2001-2002 economic downturn, it took 6 full years, adjusted for inflation, to get back the ADR that the industry lost during that 2-year span. So we didn't get back until 2001 levels until 2007. What we had going for us during that recovery, as opposed to what we clearly are going to have following this recovery, is the lack of inflation during that recovery. All the pundits suggest that inflation is going to be dramatically more robust in this recovery than last recovery, so that time frame could be extended. So the bottom line is, first and foremost, before you decide to discount, make sure you're prepared for that for the long run, because it's a difficult thing to obtain back from their guests once you reset their expectations for a price. Now, with that said, if you decide that discounting is the way to go, certainly packaging, value-added packaging is a primary way to be able to maintain the rate as much as possible while still attracting guests, and that means allowing the guests to have free parking, giving them complimentary breakfast, perhaps a free 50-minute session at your spa. Something that adds value to your package while trying to keep your rate integrity as high as you can is a very important element in this day and age, because travelers, whether they're corporate travelers or leisure travelers, are looking for that value, what they can save, especially corporate travelers, what they can go back to their boss and say, you know what, we did business here and I ended up saving 20% over previous years because of my because I was able to get this value add package. And don't be afraid to engage your guests. You know, if you see if your conversion rate on your phone reservations isn't high, or you see a lot of people just kind of looking instead of booking on your website, you need to engage those potential guests and ask why they're not booking with you, and perhaps adapt your price structure to reflect the things that they say you're missing. So communication with your guests is extremely important when you're trying to establish that threshold in rate while trying to maximize it and make money.
Certainly, from a marketer's point of view, we typically like to focus on value, and value being a calculation of price plus expected experience. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that instead of reducing the price, increase the value by keeping the price the same and increasing the expected experience one would have at your hotel. How would you go about actually conveying to travel shoppers an expected experience that increases the value of the stay?
From a shopper's perspective, obviously with the advent of the internet, the adage of shop till you drop takes on a whole different meaning, because you could shop for 3 days until you drop just by looking around the internet. One of the beauties of the last recession or the last downturn was that what came out of it was that hotel companies decided that they were going to take control of their inventory back. They were going to take control of the rate structures back from third-party internet providers, so they're providing the lowest rate guarantees on virtually all corporate sites. So as far as shoppers go, you need to make sure you do your homework. Look around, compare shopping, and don't be afraid to ask. You know, what we were talking about previously in terms of the hotel operator not being afraid to ask the guest what they want. The guest shouldn't be afraid to ask the hotel, well, you know what, I'd prefer to have this, and I'm thinking of booking here, but could you throw in a breakfast? What kind of packages do you have that allow for free parking and maybe that spa treatment that I've been asking for? So the bottom line to the shopper is compare, because there are plenty of deals out there, and the only way you're going to know about it is by doing your homework.
Jeff, thank you for joining us today on VTV. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts and your insights with us.
Well, John, it's been my pleasure, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
To all the viewers out there, be sure to visit vtv.vfmleonardo.com and post your comments. Tune in next week for more from another industry expert.